When it comes to traveling internationally, there's a lot of things that those of us who travel regularly take for granted, but are pretty important ideas that if you're new to it or going through a different type of travel, maybe you're becoming an expat and you haven't thought about some of these things that you need to do to protect yourself. And one of those is how you're able to pay for things when you're in a new country. And this goes beyond just having enough resources for while you're there traveling. It's a little bit about what you have to have access to. So what do I mean? What do you need to do? Well, we're going to talk about that right after the bump. My name's Scott Alan Miller. This is my life living in Leon, Nicaragua. So we're going to see you in just a minute. Those of us who travel all the time are used to having a lot of redundancy when it comes to our finance capabilities when in a new country. I don't mean being able to come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars and being able to just go buy anything we want. That's not what I mean. What I mean is access to financial resources in multiple different ways at different times so that you're protected no matter whatever goes wrong. Under normal circumstances, most of us can get by with extremely few resources anywhere, right? If you're living in your home country, you may have nothing but cash reserves, right? You get paid in a check, paper check. You take it somewhere, you get it cashed. They give you cash, and you could live that way, and that's functional. Maybe a little bit cumbersome, but totally functional. When you're in a new country, often you could get by with very little more than just an ATM card. All of these things work fine until something goes wrong. In the modern world, we have an expectation that you're going to have certain types of access to money, and if you don't, this may leave you exposed in some areas. Now, of course, these things are not wrong to do without, right? It is up to you how you want to have your money, what resources you want to have, but the societal expectations that you're going to have a variety of manners of means of payment for things is something that people are just grown accustomed to and they expect you to have. So when traveling, and especially if you're becoming an expat and you're not going to have regular access back to your home country, these things get really important. As a regular traveler, right, you're going for 2 weeks on vacation, you're going to be hanging out on a beach somewhere, having pretty minimal resources might be okay. Your family knows where you are, they know how to reach the hotel you're staying in, the hotel is prepaid with a credit card that you paid before you got there, you have return tickets. Short of a major emergency, you're pretty much covered. And in most major emergencies, you can just go to a hospital or go to the airport and somebody's going to help you out because you're just there for a short time and your resources back home are still all in place. You still have your house, apartment, friends, banks, whatever, everything is still in place. Nothing has changed. So you have some safety, and if nothing else, well, I don't have any way to get cash. The ATM network in the country's down. Like really big disasters, you're generally like, well, I can just ride it out, right? Like, oh, 3 more days, I can do 3 days without food or live on the $20 I have left. But I have had friends who've gotten trapped because of storms and had to go 2 days without any access to money. Someone gave them food. It wasn't a huge deal, but the ATMs were down because the power was out, the internet was out, and they were on an island and had no way off, and they were running out of cash to pay for things like ferries, right? So to get off the island. So there can be situations where you want a little bit of safety. So one of those safety items, of course, is always maintaining some amount of cash. Doesn't have to be a lot, but wherever you are, unless you're just passing through or willing to take some bit of a gamble, you want to have a little bit of cash for the country that you're in. This may be if you're traveling for just a day or two somewhere, this may be $50. But if you're going to be somewhere that you're living, you probably want to have in excess of $1,000 US worth of cash locally, so that should anything reasonable come up, you are covered. This is especially true for expats. You just want, what if you lose access to banking? You need to be able to do whatever it takes to regain that access, and you may require cash to do that. So these protections can be important. And if you're doing something like you're going to be on an island and you're going to be separated from your general resources, you may want to have a little bit more cash just in case something goes really wrong. If you're staying at home and not going out or not venturing farther than your local town, well, you may not need very much at all. But if you're going to where you don't have friends and family around you, right? Like I live in a barrio. If anything was to go significantly wrong, I lost access to money, I have plenty of friends and neighbors and people who know me extremely well that I can rely on to help with those things. So that once you've become established and you have a community and you're staying in that community, you gain some protections just like you would have had in your home country. But when you're even traveling around, if I was to go across the country and visit a different region, or I was to go to one of our neighboring states, go to Honduras, go to El Salvador, if anything was to go wrong, I wouldn't have any local resources to help me out, right? So I don't need something really big. I just need a $35 bus ticket back to Leon. But the point remains, I don't have additional resources. So we generally recommend that you have a little bit of cash. But beyond that, things that I recommend, and again, some people are very averse to this, but you need to really consider the safety and access to money when traveling, because until you are in a foreign country with no one that you know and have no way to get money, you're not going to realize the level of panic that can set in when you realize you may not be able to get back to where your money is and you have no way to get it to you once you've lost access to the internet. And so, right, if you can't pay for internet, that's going to go away. If you can't pay your rent, that's going to go away. You can't pay for food, you've got real big problems. So you need to maintain some kind of access. So the things that I generally recommend, and I did a video on this 2 years ago, one is to have 4 credit cards. Now, I did a video talking about which credit cards I recommended. That was pretty much a current recommendation. There's 1 or 2 I might change if I was doing it today, but the basics of that remain the same. I highly recommend, if you can, have a Visa, a MasterCard, an American Express, and a Discover. These are 4 unique systems. Now, one of them does overlap with another for processing, so the Discover card is a bit of a lower priority. Having just 3 cards would be absolutely adequate, but if you can, I recommend having all 4. And of course, make sure they're all travel cards with good exchange rates, no overhead for no international fees and those kinds of things in most cases. And if at all possible, have them all give you some kind of cash back or points, flight miles, something like that. Make sure you're getting something for using your credit cards. There's a bunch of techniques that we have for getting more out of the resources that you use. Absolutely make smart decisions. But from a safety perspective, none of those things are truly important. So that's topics for a previous video, and I'm sure we'll cover it again in the future. But what matters is having these alternative cards. What if Discover's down for the day? You want that American Express to work. What if you go to PriceSmart and realize that American Express is the only one of those 4 that they accept? What if you're in a normal everyday restaurant and they take cards, but they don't take anything odd, right? No American Express, no Discover. They're only going to take Visa and MasterCard. You want to have some variety just for being able to use them in different situations. You also generally want to add them to your phone so that you have an additional means of using them. What if your card gets damaged physically or it goes through the washing machine? If it gets stolen, you have a little bit of time to use it. So this can provide an additional backup mechanism as well. In many cases, you can use your cards online via your phone or whatever. You don't need to necessarily have them physically with you. And often if you're traveling around, you may have your credit card on your phone, and you can keep your actual cards maybe in a safe or something so that you don't have to be in a situation where you have all of your cards on your person. Now, of course, if depends on your travel situation, right? You may need to have them on you because you're not going back to where you came from. But if you have a safe and you live in a place, maybe you want to keep them there or someplace very protected, maybe easily accessible, maybe a wallet that just has your cards in it. Maybe you want one card that you take out while you're going around town, but for the most part, you keep extras, all right, backup cards in a safe. And you don't necessarily need to use a card all the time. Just because you have one doesn't mean you're using it, right? It is a protection. You can still decide to live off of cash all of the time if you want to. I recommend not doing that. I think you will save money by using credit cards smartly, but that's, again, a different discussion. This is about keeping you safe. So it's just having access to that, because cash is not going to do a bunch of things, right? There's situations where maybe you have to cross a border. The cash you have may not be accepted. There may be a situation where someone can't take cash. There may be a lot of situations where you need to do things online, which could be paying rent. It could be paying utilities. It could be buying an airplane ticket or a bus ticket, or paying for a hospital stay. There's a lot of situations where either they won't accept cash, or you're going to need an alternative simply because you need to pay in a scenario where you can't get cash to someone. Now, of course, if you're living in a country, you often want to have some form of local money transfer as well. That's generally pretty common. So here in Nicaragua, for example, you may want to have a local wallet or a bank card, and those do not necessarily mean a bank account. They don't necessarily mean they have credit or anything of the sort. And I apologize. There's someone just honking nonstop with some weird horn, and they went away and they came back, and they're just outside the gate just honking nonstop. It sounds like a clown horn that someone's just standing out there playing with. And so it doesn't imply that you're going to have those kinds of things. But here in Nicaragua, and I know like Belize has a similar thing, that you can just use this to go either to a local store, or you can go online and just send money to a friend, right? So if someone's like, hey, I need $10, can you move this around? Or you need $10, someone can just send it to you, and it's like instantaneous and a free transfer. It makes life really easy. So those are the credit cards. It's just good to have them, but it's also good to never use them. That's fine. Now, you also want to have generally debit cards. I recommend at least 2. Now, I have the additional advantage that I travel with my spouse and with my business partner, so I have additional protections, right? If all of my cards are damaged, well, my wife has a copy of basically all of them. If both of us have anything go wrong, my business partner is there to help and does have access to my bank accounts. I can go in instantly and move money between my bank accounts and the company's bank accounts and my bank accounts and my business partner's bank accounts and my bank accounts and my father's bank accounts. So I have a lot of options to move money around should there be emergencies and things are just in the wrong place. So those are also things I set up ahead of time. Now, I have the advantage of being an investor here in the country, so I have a local bank account. Because of that, I have a bank account in the United States that mirrors that. I have cards for those things as well. So there's so many different ways. So if I absolutely had an emergency, I could move money from my personal account into a company account and take it out through a company debit card, for example, or use a company credit card, for example. So there's additional protections in those absolute emergencies, right? Of course, you're allowed to do those things and just pay it back. Your accountant will say, yes, absolutely, do not get stuck somewhere. The government, the IRS, right, totally understands that sometimes people with corporate accounts have to use them out of emergencies, and as long as you put the money back and are not doing anything weird, it's fine, right? So these are important protections. We're not talking about day-to-day living. We're talking about, oh my gosh, there's an emergency and I need to get on a flight back to where my bank is, or I have to get to a hospital or something like that, and you cannot be figuring things out. So I do recommend 4 credit cards if you can, or more if you'd like, but 4 different ones so you have that variety, 2 different debit cards for the same reason. Now, to be very clear, a debit card is not an ATM card. They are different. Debit cards can be used on the broader credit card network. So I can go online with a debit card and I can buy, importantly, airline tickets or hotel reservations. I can also go to Steam or GOG and buy video games or whatever, things like that. And that's often how I will use it. But those types of transactions are important, because if you have an emergency, again, and you have to use a card, you can't use cash, that debit card is going to be broadly usable. You can go to a restaurant and just pay with that. Every ATM in the country is down, or for some reason the ATMs are out of money, or they won't give you, for some reason it won't authorize, you can still use it in places that take credit cards. So it actually takes you up, if you're following my advice, to 6, I don't even know how to count to 6 cards that can be used under normal circumstances online. If you need to have an ATM card, that is something like a debit card that does not operate on those networks, that can only be used in an ATM to take out cash. You can't use it to go shopping and stuff. Then make that additional. Make sure that that is a 7th or 8th card. Don't make it one of your 6 initial cards. Nothing wrong with having them, but it is wrong to depend on it, because that puts you at risk. And again, many of these things can be added to your phone, to your phone's wallet, Apple Wallet or Google Pay or whatever, so that you have these very safe encrypted mechanisms, and using those whenever you can, which understandably many places don't use. But if you can, they provide yet another layer of protection. One, because you're not taking a card out, you're not in a position where you may lose track of it, but also they're highly encrypted and often change the numbers every time they're used, so that they're much safer than a traditional credit card. Also use tap to pay whenever you can. Again, additional layer of protection. All these different things add up that you have way more protection under normal circumstances. Having good access to good cards, it will make traveling a lot easier, but more importantly, safer. We don't want you to get into a situation where you've gone somewhere and realize you don't have the flexibility of getting money like you had, that you were used to, and you're just assuming you're going to have. That can be a big shock and a panic one, because in many cases you can't set up a new bank account from abroad. You often cannot get a credit card while you're abroad. You may be able to do it, but it may take a really long time. I know when I got my Discover card, that's my other 3 I had before I came down. My Discover, I decided I needed to add on once I was here. That took me a good year to actually get it in my hands, but now I have it. I'm glad I took the effort to do that, because I have more protection now, right? You don't need big credit limits. You just need access to emergency money when the time comes. So something to think about. Make sure you're always planning in that way. You're keeping your cards separate from each other, so if one gets lost, you're not losing them all. All these little things important to think about, because it's easy to focus on convenience or focus on, well, I don't like credit credit cards. I don't want to have them. I don't want to support the man, whatever. That's great. It does not, having a credit card does not help the man. Using it, maybe it does. Protect yourself first. Make sure you're doing what's good for you. And then when you have the safe option to do so, yes, use your buying power in good, healthy ways. Absolutely. If you want to live on cash, you want to eat at street vendors, you want to never pull out a credit card, you don't even want to carry them with you unless you're going pretty far. Absolutely support that 100%. I just want everybody to be safe and able to do what they need to do and not get into a position where you're in a complete panic and possibly in danger because you don't have access to the resources that people will assume you're going to have. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can buy me a coffee with one of those many credit cards or with a debit card at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. It's like Patreon, comes right to me and helps pay for the cameras and all the things it takes to do the show. I really appreciate everyone who helps to make this possible and all the things that we do here. And as always, if you want to get in contact with me, get in those show notes. Everything you need to know is in there. You can get in the comments and say hello or ask a question there. Love it when we get questions. It makes doing the show a lot easier and more exciting for everybody. And as always, I will see all of you tomorrow.